Good morning, everyone. This is Jerry from People Matters, and we're back with another exciting session. And today's webcast is in partnership with Adrenaline, and our topic for today is the impact and use cases of AI-based HR automation. So before moving to the agenda of the day, I'm going to give you a brief about the topic. So according to a study by Deloitte, 80% of HR professionals have restructured or in the process of restructuring their organization. So for HR to stay relevant, embracing automation is not a choice. This transformation means that HR professionals will need to become identifiers of problems and problem solvers. They will need to understand how and when to leverage AI and machine learning to manage their digital workforce. So in this webcast, you will learn about the factors and extent of automation of HR processes due to changing technologies involving AI and machine learning. You will gain insights on how these technologies are helping companies manage work and what are some top use cases. So for this webcast, we have the privilege of having with us Rajiv, who is the Group Director of HR at Jindal Steel and Power. Rajiv brings with him a rich experience of over 28 years as an HR professional in both public and private sectors. He has a decade-long stint at NTPC, and he's also worked with Reliance Infrastructure and Reliance ADA Group. We also have with us Ravichandran Kaniappan, who is the Senior Vice President and Head of Product Innovation at Adrenaline. So Ravi is responsible for Adrenaline's product development strategy. He has been a part of Adrenaline's core team since inception. Over this period, he's played several vital roles in product development, delivery management, and customer engagement. Our partner for today's webcast is Adrenaline. Adrenaline is a global human capital management solution that assists organizations to move from transactional to transformative human capital management. It's a web-based comprehensive HR solution which covers almost every aspect of the HR process across the employee lifecycle. It has over 700 clients, and over 800,000 users in 33 verticals across 65 countries. So we have saved time for you to ask questions at the end of this webcast. So if you're live with us, you can simply submit your questions at any time during this webcast. We will try and respond to as many questions as time allows. We have an exciting topic to discuss. So without any further delay, let me invite Rajiv to take over. Over to you, Rajiv.
Yeah, thanks, Jerry. And then good morning, everybody. It's in fact, indeed a very, very interesting topic which we need to discuss today. But before we kind of, delve further into the details of it, I think it would be appropriate for us to set the context of what is artificial intelligence and machine learning doing in this whole context where there are three major global changes which are taking place simultaneously. A, the technological advances and changes, and thereby we can understand that the Morse code, which is in fact a measure of the technological or the pace of technological changes taking place, is ensuring that after every 18 months, a technology shelf life is lost in the sense that it actually develops capabilities of processing almost double that it had 18 months before. So the shelf life of technology is that short, and the pace of change of technology is that fast. Point number one. Point number two, the other major change is globalization and how business gets impacted by this pace of technological advancement. Now, this is creating a hyper-connected, interconnected world where, because of the technological disruption, what is at stake is kind of an equilibrium, because it leads to a situation where business is itself undergoing a situation of dynamic equilibrium being maintained. And when it means it assures and ensures that nothing changes or nothing is more relevant than the point or that moment at which it is in existence. So things are changing very fast. Every moment, not just over a period of time. So this continual change is the next important change that's taking place. The business driver today as an impact or result of this has become the continual driver itself. So change becomes business driver, and continual driver is this business change. The third most important change is taking place in terms of climate, which is in fact, anyways changing, and it has an impact on the way we run our businesses, because right now globally, if we were to see starting from the first, second and third industrial revolution, thereby once 1757 the steam engine was rolled out for the first time, the pace of technological advancement changed. Earlier to that, the discovery of fire and invention of wheel took thousands and thousands of years to kind of get into the system and make changes appropriate to that pace. But once the machine was invented, this 250 years, electricity being used by 1850, and then 1950 we had the disruptive technology in terms of what you call electronics and computers. It changed the whole face of technological advancement. But then that was not enough, because once the Y2K bug was overcome, it kind of ensured that there's an overkill of technology, and that is the current context where we talk about artificial intelligence and machine learning as in fact a buzzword today. But the context is that this is part of the fourth industrial revolution. So fourth industrial revolution in less than 250 years of time, and that too, this revolution is just about 14, 15, 16 years old. In fact, if we see, this is a post-Lehman world. 2007 is the divide where we kind of made out for sure that the Facebook was there by 2007. We had the Twitter, we had the iPhone. So it was actually an ensemble where a lot of technological advancement had taken place, and it's the birth of modern technology, disruptive one, where the Morse code became very, very relevant. And today, in less than about 10 years beyond that, we have what we call the digital learning space. We create artificial intelligence. We talk about machine learning, which is nothing but cognitive processes. In fact, very heuristic kind of algorithms being put or programmed into the machine, where machine learning becomes closer and closer to human learning. So in today's context, if I were to kind of understand, there is no deep difference actually between what can be achieved by a biological brain and what can be achieved by a computer. Computers can actually emulate human intelligence and exceed it, because they are definitely not kind of prone to forgetting. Their memory is infinite and every time available. So speed, efficacy, and delivery is better delivered by machines. But still, machine can do what exactly, as we'll be discussing when Ravi makes his presentation, which can do 50 people, it can replace. Why? But it cannot replace one extraordinary person who will have, in fact, a superior intellect, which of course is what you call part of creativity, the right part, usage of brain, parallel thinking. Of course, it will take time for, even people say that machines will catch up soon, but it will still take about 60, 70 years. So ours is not to fear it right now, and we'll see how to deal with this. So friends, this is the context in which the fourth industrial revolution is talking about convergence of what you call the cyberspace, the physical space, and the biospace. And here is a space where we come to talk about Internet of Everything, which means people, processes, big data, and things all get interrelated. And it's a question of simultaneity rather than sequentiality being the order of the day. So both the magnitude of the issues and the complexity of the issues becoming more difficult to handle. And therefore, the relevance of what you call in this fourth industrial revolution times of artificial intelligence and then machine learning, because they can handle big data anyways much, much better. In fact, they alone can handle it. No human mind can actually handle it. But let's now, with this background, keep this context very clear, that there is nothing either or situation, either machine or human beings, who is superior, who is not. In fact, the whole question about who is driving driverless car is not relevant today. It is an issue that how the two can coexist. What are the competencies in the HR space for people, at least in organizations, which are to be developed as a result of this gargantuan proportion of changes that have taken place? And how do you cope up with this in terms of developing the competencies of agility, which means responding in reaction time? It means that you are nimble-footed, You are adapting, upgrading, modifying, and changing all at the same time. And therefore, the coverage of this webcast would be around, of course, as to how business and what could the HR leaders particularly do about managing the impact of intelligent technologies in their organization, and can much easily be understood rather than being answered in exact detail. So we must be conscious of this limitation, that it has to be understood rather than looking for exact answers, because exact answers are no way available to anybody. Predictability has been the biggest casualty of our times today. So getting closest to is Internet of Everything, which is closest to being predictable in an unpredictable world. So take unpredictability to itself and leave it at that. We should learn to manage our space of the current context. And in this way, to begin with, we got to first of all take away the fear of the negative impact of disruptive technology amongst others, amongst people who could be the starting point of this conversation. Like it happened with all technological breakthroughs in the past. Even the current and future changes, howsoever disruptive they may be, are at best an improvement tool. They are partners. Remember the cobotic interface, actually, when robots and people work together. It's amounting to a cobotic collaborative experience to improve the human performance. For example, robots assist doctors with kind of keyhole kidney surgery. Now, speed here is very crucial factor in the success of such operations. And the robotics or robots are able to sew the blood vessels connecting donor kidneys far more efficiently and effectively than humans can ever do. Nevertheless, in no way does this mean that robots are replacing doctors. It just means that in doing such a task, probably robots are simply better than humans, and let's accept that. So let the better of the two do what it is best adapted to doing. It's a positive sum game rather than a zero-sum game between humans and machines, artificial intelligence and machine learning and robotics. So let's live with cobotics. That's point number one. Now, artificial intelligence and machine learning processes. Robotics are business decision support tools. They are partners with, of course, a higher level of predictability in this unpredictable, hyper-connected, interconnected world. They enrich and at the same time enlarge our impact and outcome possibilities once we are comfortable and are able to manage these to whatever extent is possible. So let's live content with the fact that, well, you can do only that much, and let's learn to be happy with it and do things which we can, of course, do better as humans. The more important issue now is to understand as to how and to what extent intelligent technologies, I would say, will influence our jobs and augment them, thereby enabling us to be more productive in and out of office, not to simply focus on job obsolescence, which people have predicted. Those are ugly prognostications been made by people that, human jobs would be lost to robots. No, only those jobs which robots can do, probably more in the transaction space, but in the strategic and the portfolio level thinking, particularly, which requires right side usage of brain, creativity, and parallel thinking would still remain. Design thinking probably would be the strict domain of human efforts and human cognizance. And that will be redefining the very algorithm of life, as I say, because it's a kind of, some bit of science and some bit of heuristics. It will together redefine the algorithm of life, the way we live. And so therefore, the agility of human beings would then be the most important competencies. In fact, I call it the overarching competence, which would ride over all these competencies which we have known in the past. Well, we can get the benefit of those past competencies in terms of systematically, scientifically, and technically managing things the way we can or the way we have. But we cannot be burdened by that kind of thinking. So this is a new and a brave new world, which probably Aldous Huxley kind of predicted way back 50 years ago, is becoming reality, where we kind of, are living this space which we thought is only existing in the realms of dreams and scientific fiction. So friends, the more important therefore issue now is to understand as to what extent we can coexist and not be afraid of obsolescence, as I said, of human jobs. Obsolescence anyways must go, and they can't be tolerated. And why should we tolerate in business organizations? Now, HR and business leaders should therefore focus on creating workplaces which are more congenial to combining intelligent technologies and human working partnerships. This can start by forming a shared vision with business leaders on how work will be done in the future, as more teams of employees will work robotically side by side with machines. The real challenge is to respond in real time, as I said. Delivery, even today, as before, continues to be all about speed, efficacy, and probity. So that is something which I thought was very relevant, because when we talk about robotics, when we talk about the machine learning process, there is a lot of fear. So that is something which has to be, first of all, go away totally. There are tools, and we'll be talking about when Ravi discusses in his course of presentations, which can at best now capture the essence of this whole great technological innovation and improvement that has taken place. So it is not just about automation. In fact, generally, we feel that, artificial intelligence and machine learning, the 3D printing, and the kinds of technologies related to IoT and IoET and others are just automation processes. No, long are the days where automation today now has become a hygiene factor. So when you move towards achieving what you call the higher order things of life and work, we have to understand that cognitive infusion of intelligence in machines and the double loop learning, which is infused into machines even, they start, in fact, responding rather than reacting like humans do. So closer to humans, of course, they may or may not. I mean, it's still for future to decide whether the whole heuristic logic that we put into machines could outweigh or in fact outsmart the human intelligence. But then that's still, I would say, in fact, and most of the scientific world believe that it's still about 50, 70, 80 years ahead of us. So let's not be concerned about that. But what is important is that all this need not necessarily be taken as replacing human effort, but only be saying as reshaping them. Now that's very, very important. In this context, this cobotic collaboration seems to be an ideal and more realistic scenario. Humans can drive along with, rather than necessarily trying to drive the driverless car. Now that is something which was very important, because that's how we can use the artificial intelligence and machine learning as a decision support tool. So we'll make it into a tool and a partner beyond being just a mere tool, which is now in acceptance of the fact it's an acceptance of reality. So we'll be living in a myth if we say that, well, machines would be always subordinated. Need not necessarily be. The point is that as long as we can be partnered, they can be made use of. I think that would be a more positive way of looking at life and still be masters of our own destiny. In this context, I want to make a point that, particularly people say that advantages of implementing AI and ML in HR. Now here, there is a context, because all this that we have discussed, this disruptive technology over 5,000 years of human history, where particularly 250 years have been involved in this machine-based, technological development, is moving towards what I call a defossilization process in the world. So this 250 years of history, which is glorious for developing all that we developed in technology. But I think this would remain a very dark spot in human history of so many millions of years, including the past and the future, because it, in fact, misutilized the fossil fuels. Anyways, they've done their job now. I think the world is moving towards getting something more creative, not necessarily, more replenishable sources of energy, more renewable sources of energy, and not only the solar, wind, and geothermal and ocean energy that I'm talking about. The more important consideration would be that the world moves to getting maybe helium-3 from somewhere in the moon, and through a cold fusion process, provide a non-invasive, clean source of energy for millions of years for entire mankind. Now, that is the context in which we kind of, and this artificial intelligence, machine learning, this big data analytics and decision support mechanism would help achieve that level of competence where we can make the world truly defossilized. Fossil go away as an issue, but then before even they go away, we'll develop an alternative model which will save the world from destruction. So we have started talking about sustainability. So this was a change that is in place. First, as I said, the technological changes. The second being business turbulence as a result of globalization and hyper-connected, interconnected world being created. And the third one being moving towards and management of climate changes being the order of the last 250 years. And we have reached a stage of global warming where it has become a major concern for all humans. So when I talk about the kind of advantages of implementing AI and ML in human resource management, in organizations, in societal context, in the larger global context, the advantage is that alone would be the mechanism to manage this level of complexity. So that's the starting point. So if we have to develop our competencies into managing that, we have to come to terms with it. We have to at least understand that what is inevitable is something that now we must learn to manage and manage it well. We have managed human history for 5,000 years, and we'll be managing it for millions of years to come. This being the cornerstone and a very great turning point in human history, where too much of it is happening in too short a time. And therefore, this ability or capability, competence of managing things in terms of responding rather than reacting is the order of the day. And I think this will be able to help not only manage the digital forces because better, or digital natives or digital workforce, as I call them, but help them to develop competencies which are more current and contextual, which will help you to kind of, identify a new angle on a level playing field. Now, that is the competence which we are looking for. And this is the competence of the future that will help us not succumb to this pressure of great technological disruptive developments that have taken place, but continue to kind of, be the master of our own destiny. So I think this was the context which I've set before. I think Ravi can now take over from here and with his presentations on what technologies are there to kind of manage at least the life cycle process of people. So that's at the level of automation, but there are bots and robots and cobots which are actually developing not only as mere automation but as tools of developmental purview where human development and all these developmental aspects, organizational development, human resource development are there. So I think he would be able to take that from now onwards. Over to you, Ravi.
Very good morning, everyone, and thanks to Rajiv for setting up the stage for me to present on adrenaline bot. Definitely, it was definitely a very useful session where it laid a platform to talk about adrenaline bot and also set the stage for to talk about what is artificial intelligence today doing and what is the machine learning is all about. So, with that introduction, let me get into the adrenaline bot today. Um, if you look at the picture here, you can see that the world is full of chats. Like now, people are doing chatting every day in day out. Every minute, there is a numerous chats floats around the world using many devices. What is this chat is all about? There could be various mechanisms what people can chat with each other. In context of today, what Adrenal Bot today, what we are going to talk about is a conversational UI with a system. Basically, there are many forms of UI. You must have seen it. One of the web-based forms, the mobile devices, and all. You would have seen the application to be used. While that is one way of accessing a form and making a request or understanding how the application works, the technology is moving towards a direction where the user interface can itself become a conversational, where you can chat with the system, get the required output, and keep on the move. So for that to happen, the system should be very intelligent because the system should understand the language and what the user is going to talk because it's a conversation is all about. So for that understanding to happen, there should be kind of an intelligence to be burning. So that is what the artificial intelligence is coming in. And The chat bots, what we talk today, will become intelligent as it grows older and older. Like day by day, as we use it, it becomes intelligent. So it means what? The chat bot is a machine which learns things through the conversation. So whatever Rajiv spoke on artificial intelligence and machine learning, we have done an implementation of the concepts, whatever he spoke, in the form of a solution through Adrenaline. With that introduction, let me get into the next slide. It's always better to understand what are the thought leaders who talk about when we talk about any technology, advancements or new things which is brought in. Like Stephen Hawking is one of the thought leader who spoke about this subject some time back. How computers can emulate the human intelligence, and that's exactly what we are also doing. And machines cannot replace an extraordinary man, whatever be it, but it can replace 50 ordinary men. For doing 50 ordinary things, why you need 50 manpower to be wasted? So why not the machine can do that work for you? So these are the ways in what the thought leaders were talking about the artificial intelligence some time back. So it's all from artificial intelligence, though it's a buzzword which has been started to talk about recently, but it is in existence for many, many years. And now you can see the outcome of it in many formats which is coming in. And with that note, I'm moving to the next slide. We need to understand because today's context is more on HR. The application of artificial intelligence in the HR space is what we are talking about today. When we talk about HR space, we need to also understand what it is going to bring back to us. Gartner says that by 2020, most of the communication interactions will happen through smart agents. Smart agent meaning a chatbot is one of the smart agent. There could be many other agents which is going to be coming in the near future very soon, because we are already in 2018, and in the next 2 years down the line, there are many agents are going to be there in the market. And with this agent, what is that in HR the chatbot is going to do today? It gives a personalized experience to the employee, because when I want to talk to an HR, it's very difficult for me to go and talk to the HR, taking the time, writing an email. They have to be available, by the time when you want them. So how easy it can be made. So that kind of a personalized experience is what the chatbot can bring in on the place. And second is automation of repetitive low value add task. Like for example, if HR is someone who can do a very strategic work in the workplace, but instead of doing a strategic work, imagine a HR is doing a mundane task like keep a record of your leave balances, keep sending the documents an employee is asking for, keep sharing the policies. It's a very ordinary task where even an ordinary man can do it. Why an HR should do all these things? So the repetitive task can be avoided by introducing the chatbots. So in the HR context, so that is one of the key thing what in the HR space. Then smarter people analytics, because when we talk about analytics, it is a very bigger subject. But in context to in the bots, basically there is always a biasness exists in an organization, that if someone has done good in the recent past, that will stay fresh in the mind, or someone has done not performed very well in the recent past, that will also stay very well in the mind. So that will get a kind of a bias, like this he or she has performed like this or not performed like this. To avoid these biasness, it is always intelligent, no, it is always better to have an intelligent system, so that it keeps track of what all activities happens across an organization, across all the employees in the organization, so that the interpretation of the activities, the interpretation of the outcomes of whatever the employee has done, the analysis of the activities, whatever has been done, the system will have an intelligence to come back and say, this person has performed or this person has not performed. This is the productivity level of your team, or this is an absence chart for your sheet of your team. This is how the system will come back and help you to take some decisions. So that's exactly what we're talking about, the avoiding biasness. While in continuing to the biasness point, it helps to be a more effective decision making system. That's what it does in the context of HR, the chatbots. And I'm moving on to the next slide. So we need to understand the capabilities of Adrenaline bot. There are 8 capabilities have been highlighted here in this presentation. The first one is the real-time interaction. Yes, as I mentioned in the beginning, it's a 24/7 support, where imagine an organization where your HR facilitator is available 24/7 to answer all your queries. your processes, your documents, your entitlements, your leave balances, your performance chart. All these things can be available 24 by 7. So an employee will have a convenience to log in, just chat with the system and get the data, whatever he or she wants at any moment of time. And conversation bridging, it's like, as I said, it's like bridging a discussion between one person to another person, like through an intelligence system where the data is picked up and helps the employees to talk with another person. That's a bridging of conversation between two different parties. So the chatbot comes in an important position player here, where it helps two different people to talk. Chat generation, as I said, the artificial intelligence, the machine learning is what is implemented, where we can clearly see that the bot will have a capability to generate sentences. So we have implemented NLP, which is a natural language processing, and it can understand English, and it can translate it and associate to a business logic and understand what information the system to provide to the end user who has asked for it. So that's what it talks about, the dynamic chat generation. Text and voice based channels, it is obvious that no, when we do a conversation to a system, the conversation can happen either through a chat or it can be a voice. I can talk to a system and get the information what I want from the system. Sentiment analysis, we have a huge amount of data captured about the users. So the system can, as I said in the beginning, can intelligently understand what the employee feels in an organization, whether he or she is engaged, not engaged. So what is that? I need to go back and tell my team or to my manager or to the HR about an employee so that the necessary actions can be taken. Proactive push notifications. Imagine a bot coming up and saying that, no, do you want to see the attrition trend the last month of your team? Or the system comes back, the bots come back and say, two of your top performer you lost in the last month. You may have to speak to your team. These are the kind of intelligence where the push notification, through push notifications, the intelligent messaging can happen to the HR or to the manager. This is what the bot can do. Multilingual support, yes, language should not be a barrier, and we need to enable the chatbots into multiple languages. And this is exactly what the bot is going to do. And now we have come up with English, and the other languages are we are implementing, and very soon you can see the capabilities coming out soon. Dynamic charts and cards. The chatbot while it gives a messaging kind of an output, it also has an intelligence to give a chart as an output, so that my my organization last month, how the leave pattern of my team, can I see that in a chart? Or the attrition trend for the last 6 months, I want to see by a chart. The system has a capability to come back and give it as a chat based output. And over and above, by after providing the chat as a chart, this chatbot still has an intelligence to interpret the values and explains to the user what it is about. For example, if the attrition is very high in the month of May compared to the month of April, the chatbot comes back and says that you may have to look in the month of May because the attrition is higher than the April month. So the values will be interpreted and intelligence will be understood by the bot and comes back and tell the user. So these are the capabilities of the chatbots what we have built in Adrenaline. And with this, I'm moving on to the next slide. So as I was talking, like one bot, many companion. So we don't want to position this as a bot or a chat bot. So we want to position as a digital companion to an employee in the organization. So basically, I have a companion. Whatever I do, whichever verticals of HR, be it recruitment vertical of an HR or a performance management vertical of an HR, or an employee companion can be a part of an employee companion or HR companion within the organization. So this one bot can behave as a multiple companions. So as I said, there is one example what we are talking about, a recruitment companion. Imagine a candidate coming into your website and looking out for a vacancies available in your organization. Uh, if a candidate doesn't know how to go and look out for vacancies and all, the chatbot can talk with the candidate and help him to understand what kind of a right position is available for the for the candidate who has come into the website, by asking few questions on the skill set, on the experience and the location what he or she is looking for, and then prompting the right vacancies to the candidate, saying that this is what comes out, how about you applying for it. While one side the bot is so intelligent to do it, Another side, the security is also one of the important thing. We cannot compromise it. So it also does a validation by whether the right candidate is coming in, or how can I authenticate more. It also generates OTP and then authenticates and then enables the candidate to apply for a vacancy which is available in the organization. That is one of the use cases what I'm talking about, the chatbot in the recruitment. Performance, your past trends can be understood, how the performance happen in your organization last 5 years, who's the best talented resource, and what is the productivity of the best talented resource or the best performer vis-a-vis the other performer who's not performing. So these kind of information you already have in the system. How about an intelligence system on top of it to interpret it and analyze it and give it as a push notification to the user is what this bot is going to do about. And rest of the thing which I spoke, is the HR companion. Like, I want to track the goal. Where do my team stands on my goal submission? I can just chat with the bot and get to understand what is the percentage of completion of goals. This bot simply answers to you. So need not log into the system at all. Just like that, you just chat with it, it gives an answer to it. With that understanding, I'm moving on to the next slide. This slide talks more about what is the platform we offer, because this slightly sounds little technical here, but however it is important to understand what is the layers built on top of adrenaline today. If you look at, there are three components here. The first, there is a vertical bar placed. Second, there is a middle, there is one layer placed. There is a third layer which has been placed. If we look at the last layer, it's an adrenaline HR today. What we have in a product is comprises of your core HR management, employee lifecycle, workforce administration. All these pillars is what part of the adrenaline today what we have. And if you look at it, there is one more box kept on the side is the other systems, where it can be your finance system, it can be your sales, or it can be a production planning system. So if you look at the platform what we have built, it's just placed on top of the adrenaline. So when we talk about AI and ML, it is not only a chatbot which is going to come out. We have created a platform which comprises of many services, right from your session management, your NLP services, your machine learning services. These are the services where it's completely different from when we talk about the other chatbots what we exist in the industry today. So these services brings in the kind of intelligence into the system. So the outcome of that platform, whatever is going to come, maybe in the form of a chatbot, or it can be form of analytics, or it can be form of business intelligence, or in the form of data insights. And today we have now launched chatbot. And with this note, I'm moving on to the next slide with a quick highlighting on the business benefits. Of course, any solution, it's always important to understand what are the business benefits it brings on the table today. Otherwise, there is no point in developing a solution. So while we talk about the features and advantages and all, but what really matters is the cost. How efficient an employee can perform. How can I reduce my cost? How can I extend it further? And how can it become dynamic for the dynamic organization? Because things change so very quickly in any organization. So what are the business benefits it brings back? Like, these are the four top business benefits what we have identified that the chatbot can really bring it on the table. And support costs, as I mentioned, like the 24/7 support is one of the important thing. Your mundane task of answering emails, calling people, is completely going to be removed, and that's exactly what this bot is going to do for you. And seamless user journeys, because it gives a better experience, engagement of employees. Employee engagement will be much smoother, and information on the go. It's like uh, uh, with a mix of intelligence is going to come in. So these are the areas where the benefits are going to be brought into the for the organization using the chatbot. And definitely, yes, it's time to make a new friend. We have seen many traditional systems like your web applications and our mobile applications. It's a new way of system which is going to be your friend now, which is going to be interacting with you. It can say hello to you, it can talk to you, you can have a quick chat with it, you can ask for information, and that's what we are introducing, the Adrenaline chatbot. And in this slide, I'm going to play a small flash file, which will help you to understand how this chat is going to interact with the user, and how the user can interact with the chatbot, and what is the outcome. So we have taken some sample use cases, and this interface, what it shows is like, no, this is a web application interface of Adrenaline. If you look at bottom here, the chatbot is placed there, and it can be launched from our web application, and it can be also be launched from the mobile application, and chatbot can also be used using the Facebook Messenger as well. Suppose if you have a Facebook Messenger installed in your machine, in your mobile, all you have to do is add Adrenaline chatbot as one of your buddies. Then the Adrenaline chatbot will have an intelligence to authenticate you, then authorize you, then agree that accept that you are one of the authenticated authorized user within using the Adrenaline chatbot, and then starts to interact the way it interacts in your web application as well. So I'm going to run a small flash clipping. Look, um, this is how the chatbot screens comes, and it says that the chatbot is saying hello to Mercer, that you want to see your team members working for long hours for the last 2 weeks. It shows a report. So if you look at the chat in this particular use case where the chatbot came up and said you want to see the OT hours of the team, and it also doesn't stop there. It also goes one step beyond there, and it says that, do you also want to see the leave pattern of the same team who has also worked extra hours in the last week, so that the trending of the how the leave pattern is applied by an employee, why they have to spend more hours, why they should not complete it, or why what is the leave pattern, so that it allows the manager to interpret more and more no information out of the way the system gives the data to you. So this is one particular use case, and I'm playing the next one. Look at it now. So the leave pattern is shown, and employee says he is asking for additional information, and doesn't stop. It goes back and bring the additional information about the same employees. It gives an additional information of OTRs versus the unplanned leave. So there's a comparison coming in now. So why there's a team, there is OTRs compared to the unplanned leave. So this is one of the intelligence what it has already gone in. Look at here this situation where the system came up and said this is a trend, and it doesn't stop there. Beyond that, it gives more information on the leave pattern and also gives a comparison. So then I'm giving another use case here, and the report can also be mailed to the end user. It's done. The mail has gone to the end user who has asked for it. Then the mail is there in his mailbox. So now one more use case coming up. So it says that it identifies the attendance trend of an employee. It says that you're late for the last 2 days. Is anything going wrong? No, is everything's all right? Look at it now. It says that yes, something. Yes, I couldn't catch the bus on time, but still the system doesn't stop there. It attaches the the policy where the HR would have already uploaded into the site. Like, now, would you like to take a look at it? Because most of the time we are very busy at our work. Imagine a companion coming back and saying, understanding our, the attendance trend, and coming back and saying, hey, stop, for pause for a while. There is a policy, please read it. And this has been, uploaded recently by the HR. Please take some time and read it. This is another use case where the system has intelligence to come back and say. And I'm playing one more, use case now. And now the conversation gets over. The employee says okay, and then the bot, and then it moves on to the next. So yes, it's the most interesting where many it looks very ordinary, but still the birthday wishes. But it doesn't stop there. It also says that your friend is also having a birthday today. Would you like to also wish your friend? So while the bot has an intelligence to understand your birthday and wishing you, but still it doesn't stop and also gives another information. It's all the it's all the conversation what you are going to have with the bots. These kind of conversation you can keep having to the bots, and it learns, and as it learns, it becomes more and more intelligence. And I'm playing another. So your the birthday wishes have been sent to the person, to the employee's friend as well. Then moving on to the next use case. So it's asking the bots is coming back and asking, like, no, are you interested in seeing the attrition trend? If you say okay, it comes up with a chart. This is what I was talking about, one of the features where the chart can be as one of the outputs coming out from the system. Not only the data as a textual format, it also gives a representation of a chart format as well. And then it doesn't stop there. It also says that comparison for last, and also says that no, your two of your top performer has been um, left in the last month, and that is what the bot is talking about. And one more use case now. So this is for a candidate to see how many vacancies are there and whether the candidate is interested to apply for it. And I'm stopping this video now and to quickly summarize on the presentation whatever I made. In continuation to what Rajiv has presented today afternoon, there are many innovations are coming in place, and there is a buzzword always on artificial intelligence, machine learning. But it is very important to implement it and make it work. And today in Adrenal, we have implemented a chatbot on top of the Adrenal system as a platform by itself. The intelligence built, the chatbot is available, and the analytics can be derived. The data insights can be seen. The business intelligence can be become more powerful and powerful day by day as it grows. And this is what will be a big takeaway for the customers who are already using the solution. They can see a lot many benefits coming out of it. With this note, I'm finishing the presentation. Thank you very much.
I think Ravi, that's I think beautiful summing up with the kind of the major aspects of what you've created wonderfully. That's a beautiful product which will actually help manage at least the transactional, and not only the transaction but also the strategic and the portfolio bit as far as the HR operations are concerned.
Absolutely.
Now, thank you very much, Ravi. And
Absolutely.
now there have been 3 questions which have been put across to me.
Okay.
So I'll maybe answer them, and then you can answer the ones that I addressed to you, Ravi.
Sure. Right. Okay.
First one here is that what is the implication of skilling in this age where we have to coexist with robos? How is a company like JSPL managing the reskilling mandate? Now, I think I'll skip the JSPL bit here right now, but what is important here is that a lot of the best way to kind of cope up is to start unlearning a lot. So firstly, you'll have to unlearn and then relearn. For example, and I and Ravi were discussing in the morning, if you have to suddenly, there's a change which has come up, and therefore we have to address this change. We cannot just continue to do the things the way we've been doing, because the more and more we know today, in fact, we realize that the more and more we realize that less and less is known to us about what more and more needs to be known about. So in this context where you get comfortable with ambiguity, there's no choice. You have to get comfortable with decision making in a state of semi-dark, where you have to be up on the learning curve, in the sense that the shortest distance between 2 points is not ordinarily considered a straight line, but I call in this new age of disruptive technology as a learning curve. So the shortest distance between 2 points is reshaping the shape of the straight line itself. Therefore, these are very different times, and therefore very unique solutions have to be created. And therefore, skilling of human resources will have to be firstly and more or less in an attitudinal context. For example, and also, and a very kind of laid back and a very mundane example would be that suddenly you are made to say that, okay, if you have to turn right, then you actually turn your wheel on the left. A simple thing like turning to the left when you have to turn right, I'm sure most of us will commit an error 100 times before we learn to do this. So it's not only motor mechanics, but it's actually an attitude which is important. So the way we have learned, we have to unlearn a lot. Of course, the digital natives who are children born beyond or after 85 are better equipped. I call them digital natives. They'll probably have to unlearn less, but they'll also have to unlearn a lot. So that is, in short, the implication of skilling in this age, because you have to unlearn and relearn immediately, every time, because the pace of change is so fast. So therefore, any company, leave aside JSPL, any organization, any society, in fact, given the global context, we all have to learn to be adaptive, And adaptive learning is very important, upgradable, modifiable, and changeable, living to the context of continual change. So I think that, I hope, answers this question of the implications of skilling, because we have to develop different tools, we have to develop different attitudes towards learning itself, because a mere linear learning is no longer relevant. Linearity actually died its death. So it's like paradigm shifts have to be kind of, built into our curriculum, built in the context, and built as a matter of habit, and built into our work stream and life cycles. The other question is, what can be the possible mitigation that reduces the risk of unpredictability in an AI world? And the answer immediately would be to embrace AI and machine learning. That's one possible mitigation, because once we kind of have embraced this inevitable, we can learn to cope with it. Because big data analytics is something which forms the basis of artificial intelligence and machine learning becoming important and making closest to what you can call predictability in an unpredictable environment, because they would have considered every possibility of occurrence. A very simple example which I think can explain this context is that earlier in Indian context, we thought that monsoons were a local geographical South Asian phenomenon. But once we through big data analytics and use of supercomputers, leave aside this kind of developed artificial intelligence and machine learning, we know that there is a factor called El Nino, which is in fact 5,000 miles away in North Atlantic, which has an impact on the monsoons in India. And therefore, we were able to predict the monsoons. Our meteorological departments became better equipped to actually predict. And we have been seeing that for the last so many years, the predictability has increased. So therefore, the possible mitigation would be around increasing the size of the data analytics through sensors, in fact, and through kind of, processes which actually lead to understanding this hyper-connected, interconnected world existing and the ones that are going to come. So this web of complexity has to be simplified through big data analytics and more use of artificial intelligence and machine learning, which alone can solve this issue. No human brain is equipped to handle so many multiplicities simultaneously. So the idea is that human mind probably was able to handle things sequentially. But when change becomes so great, so grave, so fast, then I think manageability becomes an issue in a linear context. We can use our right side of brain for creativity, parallel thinking processes and others, but to actually learn the basics of what this change has brought in is better equipped, in fact, in terms of complexities being handled by machines. So I think that's my answer to the second question. And the third is that people have said that you spoke about artificial intelligence going to impact work processes and workplaces. And the real challenge would be to responding in real time. People have expected me to speak a bit more on this challenge. Well, AI is going to impact the work processes and workplaces because they would be kind of involved. And as I've said, not only robotics alone in isolation and human beings in isolation, but cobotics, human beings as well as robots being put together would be, I think, the order of the day. And so therefore, we can get the best out of machines handling the complexities and then refining the decision making of the ones which are provided as a decision support by the machines, by the human brain, by the human intellect. And in fact, here also, there is a great Vedantic way of looking at life, where I would say is that intelligence and intellect and mind are to be understood in a very different context. If we say, and then there are people who say that the world has become very intelligent, but the human intellect has not developed. It has suffered, in fact. The meaning is here that mind is impulsive. Mind is something which is actually very arbitrary, and mind is something which is kind of appeasing or pleasing for the moment. But human intellect is something that decides, something that judges, something is more discrete. So therefore, when faced with this challenge, I think of robotics suddenly coming into place, artificial intelligence playing a major role, to respond in real time, to respond in reaction time, the best would be to develop the human intellect to cope with this level of infusion of technology in our human life, and yet separating the two, the human aspect, the heuristics, the creative aspect, with the motor-based aspects of technology. So as I said, some bit of science, some bit of heuristics, we got to redefine the very algorithm of life. And once we redefine our algorithm of life, we can then possibly learn to cope with the challenges that are posed by technology, not only the ones that are being faced today, but even the ones that are going to come in future. So thank you, and thank you very much. It's over to you, Ravi or Jerry.
Right, fantastic. Thank you so much, Rajiv, for answering all of those questions. I'm going to request Ravi to stop sharing his screen. So Ravi, there's this button at the right. Perfect. All right, great. So Ravi, I think we missed a little bit of that early part of the presentation due to some audio issues. So one question we had from our audience is if they could have access to your PPT. So I think that'll be useful. So one question with respect to data, what is the importance of having data to assist your chatbots? And could you speak a little bit about that?
See, as I mentioned, like data of in context to the HR, the employees interact with the colleagues, the employees interact to their manager, or they try to interact. There are various messages have been sent to a particular employee, but the manager. Most of the time, this data is well analyzed well. So basically, the system employee, he or she can talk to another employee through a platform. This data is going to be residing in an application. If this data is not going to be utilized, it's going to be a junk, meaning like there is no use to it at all. So if you put up top of it, it try to understand or interpret what an employee is trying to convey, or is someone is in a happy mood or is not in a good mood. How will I interpret it? Like if you have an intelligence built on top of it, like this data in a more, there are two ways. One is the more structured data and unstructured data. The structured data, what we talk about is the leave information, the pattern what the leave is getting captured, the performs, the pattern what's an employee onboarding experience happen. This is a more structured information and application. Structured part is the collaboration what I was talking about. And if you have a system, these two things, and putting an intelligence on top of it, and giving an interpretation or the analysis on top of it, that's something amazing. Like we're talking about the data.
Right. Fantastic.
I think, Jerry, I'll just add a bit if I can, possibly, what Ravi has so beautifully put. See, what's important for us to understand is that there is the technology which is developing is giving us the capability to separate the data, which is the chaff from the grain, in terms of creating better information. And when it's all put together in terms of, whether through the bots and other, devices, it becomes more intelligible and becomes what is called from information to knowledge when it gets filtered. And actually, when it is actually, over a period of time utilized, it turns into wisdom of the new age or the new kind of, environment in which we have to kind of, use this wisdom more often. So what has happened is that artificial intelligence, machine learning, this big database, and they being captured, analyzed, they create what is called distilled wisdom being made available, which becomes easier for us to use, in fact, and more intelligible and better decision making, more transparent decision making, more objective decision making in terms of managing this unpredictable world. So I think these are tools of modern times, which are an answer to modern problems.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for sharing it. I'm conscious of time. We're short of time.
I think we have run out of time now to 12:31.
Absolutely. So Ravi, I think we have a few more questions, but I'll ask you to take this offline.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for joining us today, Ravi and Rajiv. Thank you for this wonderful insights that you have shared with us today. So with that, we wrap this Q&A session. We'd like to once again thank our partner Adrenaline and our speakers for sharing their invaluable information with us today. So if you haven't already taken the feedback survey, please do so on the chat section. So stay tuned for more such exciting sessions. That concludes our webcast session for today. Thank you and have a great day.
Thank you, Jerry. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Rajiv. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thanks.